Okay, hey everybody, hi, I'm Cassandra.eth, or KZG, you can also call me as a nickname, um, or Cass, or anything that starts with a K. I'm working on Kohaku. We're an initiative inside of the Ethereum Foundation, along with a bunch of Ethereum Foundation grantees working together to try to make um, privacy for users a reality on today's Ethereum and on the future iterations of Ethereum. So yeah, we're talking about privacy by default on Ethereum from the context of a user trying to interact with the chain. One tiny piece of housekeeping. Anybody see my talk from 2 days ago here? No? One person? Okay, it's going to be very similar, so just checking. In case it was all of you, then maybe I would skip some things. Alrighty. So yeah, roughly the exact same talk. So enjoy yourselves. Those who saw me already, you can, I don't know, try to find something new in it. Yeah. So what are we talking about when this is going to be? I'm going to move through things pretty fast. I'm going to try to do some live demo of some actual things because the Kohaku initiative is something different than the rest of the Ethereum Foundation in the way it was formed, in that we were really like an action committee trying to figure out what we could do in the immediate term to get users' privacy right now. So there's been tons of amazing work done at the Ethereum Foundation, research and so forth around privacy in general, how we might do privacy in the future, a little privacy experiment here, but we're trying to move into how can we actually get this deployed to real users in today's world. So privacy by default on Ethereum, how do we actually achieve this? What do we need to do? Well, we need to shake up the Ethereum wallet's de facto standards. If we stick with the wallets that the form factor that we've sort of ended up with Ethereum wallets today, there's no way we're going to be able to have seamless private transactions. So our goal is to alter in some ways some of the de facto standards and create new standards inside of wallets that make us have privacy by default. So what are the things I want to talk about here? How much time do I have, by the way? What's the, like, how long is this supposed to be? Nobody know. I don't know. I'll make it short. We'll spend most of the time on the demo part because I think that's the most interesting. So we want to innovate on the Ethereum wallet, and in general, I would say as like a point, like a personal side note, I would say that I think it's time we're due for a shakeup in the Ethereum wallets. I think we have new tools, and so we can reintroduce the Ethereum user experience to people with the new upgraded tools that we have to make Ethereum legible in a completely different way for users than what they might have been used to, having these browser extension wallets where they're looking at different 0x addresses, changing between networks manually, going to DeFi front ends. All of this can be rethought, in my opinion, and there's room to really shake this up and completely reintroduce the Ethereum user experience. All right, but going into just like the core nitty gritty, how can we get privacy by default on Ethereum? Well, we need to have some new wallet standards, some new standards for how we interact with Ethereum that are a little bit different. I want to talk about 3 things today that we're working on to standardize in the wallets to make this possible. This is key derivation, actual transactions or user operations themselves, like the flow to getting those on chain, and then I want to talk a little bit about legibility. Before we even go into key derivation, which is the first little section, I want to say, okay, what do we already have on Ethereum? What's possible in Ethereum privacy right now today? And we do have some cool infrastructure. There's a bunch of tools that make transacting privately on Ethereum possible in theory, but just in practice, very, very few people are using this. In my previous talk, I said less than 1%, and someone came up to me, they said, it's less than, you need to go like 3 orders of magnitude lower. It's less than 0.001% of transactions on Ethereum are actually private in terms of not creating linkable data between identities of the people doing those transactions. So what do we have already today, and why is nobody using it? Well, we have these tools. We have these shielded pools or mixer type protocols. This is things like Railgun, Tornado Cache, privacy pools. And these are great. They're great because they exist, and these are the three that actually have a sizable anonymity set that give you some sort of anonymity if you're to pass your coins through them. So what are these? In a nutshell, these are, you can put some coins in there, you're allowed to deposit, you can deposit, and then you can withdraw, and using a zero knowledge proof, you can claim some coins that you deposited earlier in a way where you don't link them in any way with your particular deposit. So this is an awesome tool. This is like a very core primitive we could use to get some privacy on Ethereum. Very, very few people actually use this today because these are not integrated in any way in Ethereum wallets. One thing is if you have to deal with some secret material in order to generate the zero knowledge proof to remove your coins later from this pool, you have to store that secret material yourself in a separate way than you do with your wallet. You also have to be in charge of making sure you withdraw to an account that isn't linked to other accounts of yours, which would then fully de-anonymize you. And so like, you could have this, the private experience I'm going to describe to you today, you could try to do yourself today, but you would have to be almost a cryptographer yourself in order to do this. You'd have to have a sort of extreme OPSEC, and you'd have to stitch a bunch of tools together manually yourself. So our goal at Kohaku is really just to do that stitching, find a way to do that stitching and make that like a default inside of the wallet. Make it, make this stuff embedded in your wallet experience. So how do we do that? First part is key derivation. So many of you probably use like an Ethereum wallet. You know, have heard of something like called the seed phrase, right? This is a wallet standard that we have. It's great because it's a way to think about the seed randomness to generate the keys for your different accounts. And if you bring that from one wallet to another, they're still going to find, they're going to know where to look based on this seed randomness to see if you have coins in different addresses. We want to also have standards for these different privacy protocols so that you can find all the funds that you have in privacy protocols. You can find all your notes or UTXOs, all the secret material that you need for those also derived from that single seed that you use for your public accounts. And so the main goal of this is the idea that if you were to use a wallet that had privacy directly integrated and it allowed you to interact with tools like Tornado Cache or Railgun, you had some private funds in there, and then who knows, that computer completely explodes, and you take the backup of your seed phrase, and you go and you bring that to a completely different wallet client. Voila, that wallet can also find the funds you have inside of Tornado Cache or inside of Railgun right away, naturally. So this would be a nice new wallet standard to have and a thing to sort of coalesce around in the wallet community. Okay, the next thing is transactions themselves. So when we actually do a transaction, how do we do it in a way that's like, how can we do the kinds of transactions we like to do on Ethereum, but now do them in a private way? Well, this is how I ended up involved in this project, and what got me excited was in a recent hard fork when we added the 7702 EIP, which made it possible to upgrade EOAs on the fly to act like smart accounts. And in general, another EIP that's super useful, ERC that's super useful, is 4337, which allows us to have something like account abstraction. Eventually, Ethereum should have full account abstraction, but today we have sort of a stepping stone towards account abstraction. These tools allow us to do things on Ethereum we couldn't do years ago to create a seamless experience while maybe doing some more interesting things under the hood at the Ethereum address space level. And so I got really excited after I noticed that you could bring these things together to give users a very similar experience. Let's imagine a user who goes to a front end and they have a browser extension wallet, right? They go to Aave and they want to deposit some funds into Aave to earn yield, right? Or they go to Uniswap and they want to swap some ETH to DAI. So great, cool. We can now, the goal of this picture that I'm going to walk you through quickly is to give the user roughly the same experience. They click, OK, swap 0.1 ETH to DAI. Their wallet pops up, and it just, right at that moment, it says, oh, do you want to do this with your privatized ETH inside of Tornado? And if you click yes, Then you click submit the transaction. One atomic transaction goes through, and your wallet says, okay, now I have a little less ETH, you have a little more DAI. But under the hood, this interaction was now fully anonymized from the point of view of being linked to any of your other activity. How does that happen? Well, the idea is, let's imagine you have that 0.1 ETH inside of one of these shielded pools, right? You have 0.1 ETH inside of Tornado Cash, let's say, or a little more than 0.1 ETH, or inside of Railgun or privacy pools. What you're going to do is you are going to remove the funds that you're going to use to do that swap into a fresh account, whether it's a smart contract that's deployed instantaneously at the time of this operation, or it could be a fresh EOA that's never been touched, which is also derived from your seed randomness, right? A fresh EOA on your account that then is upgraded with 7702 to have this smart contract-like functionality. So those funds are going to flow out of the privacy protocol, and then the bundler, the 4337 bundler, is going to append arbitrary extra operations you want to do, like swapping or minting an NFT or staking some tokens, to this call. So synchronously, you're going to remove these funds from the privacy protocol into a fresh address. That fresh address is then going to do these operations, whatever generalistic Ethereum operations you wanted to do. And then finally, you need to pay for gas. You need to pay back the bundler the gas for this, and those gas funds are also going to come out of the shielded pool. And so now there's nothing linking this activity you did to any of your other accounts or back to you, including paying for the gas. And there's nothing extra you had to do beforehand. There's no asynchronous things you had to do. You did this all in one operation, and the wallet sort of handled it for you. So this is what we're hoping to do with transactions, and what I would like to see as a standard for Ethereum usage to make things way more private by default. You can imagine again that think about the way we think about wallets and the standards have to change a bit, because now every time you do an interaction with an application, you are going to use a fresh address. So we no longer want the user, when they're looking at their wallet and the funds they have in it, to be thinking address by address. You want them to understand the account as sort of a larger abstraction over address space. This is very normal. This is even how Bitcoin works, right? On Bitcoin, you don't think address by address and signature by signature. A Bitcoin wallet has funds, UTXO, scattered in a bunch of addresses, but you see simply one aggregated balance, and when you want to spend some Bitcoin, you spend some Bitcoin, and you authorize that. And the low-level address space signatures are handled under the hood by the wallet. But there's a number of user experience things we'd need to think about here in a world that looked mostly like this, where every time you wanted to interact with some application on Ethereum, you were pulling funds out of a shielded pool and then doing those atomic interactions right after. And that's where we come to legibility, right? How do we make this legible for users in a way that they understand what's going on in their wallet, that they have the requisite information they need to be fully informed. Most importantly, right, that if they have the ability to recover everything, even if this specific wallet software no longer exists. But also make things simple enough that there aren't a million little dials they have to know everything about. And this is a very difficult and important problem that I'd love to see a bunch of wallets tackling alongside of us, and we're working and thinking about it as well. So I don't know how long I've been so far, but now I want to, so thinking about this legibility thing, right? Everything I just mentioned to you is totally possible. We're already working on it, but now, how do we make it real, right? Let's get users actually transacting privately, delinking a lot of their on-chain activity on Ethereum. Well, we built some SDK to make all of this possible, and I want to show you a little CLI that I've been just personally building to show you that you can consume this SDK to build some user experiences that make this, at least somewhat legible. Okay, so here we go. So here we are in the branch I'm working on right now, integrating Tornado Cash. And so I built this little CLI-based wallet where you can interact privately on Ethereum. We're going to do some transactions. Okay, first thing I want to show you that you could do is you could just create a new wallet. So why not? Let me show you. Let's call this one, I don't know. Okay, so if you want to create a new wallet, we get this fresh seed phrase. You would take this and back it up. This is all pretty standard, like other online wallets you might use. Of course, a whole different subject is things about like hardware wallets and making sure this randomness has never touched a live computer and so forth. But this is outside the bounds of this talk. Okay, we can put a little password on our fresh wallet, and we created it. Now, I already created a separate wallet here that I called Protocol Day just a little bit ahead of time. That's because the very first sync takes a few minutes because you have to look through these privacy protocols to see if you have any funds in them, and you have to start from the very beginning. And so this is one other problem we're sort of working to try to make easier. A lot of things that try to give you privacy on Ethereum have this problem of initially you might have to wait a little bit. But anyway, so for the purposes of making this demo a bit faster, I already synced this wallet and put a few funds in there. So let's check out our balances. So you can just do this balances command on my CLI to see what you're holding inside of your wallet. Okay, and here we are. We see the aggregated balances of all the funds connected to this seed phrase, and I have 4.2 ETH. I've got 125 USDC. I don't have anything inside of Railgun or Tornado Cash. And then you can see address by address where the funds are. But right now, all the funds are just in the the public address at index 0. Okay, cool. So now let's shield some funds. Let's take some funds we have and make them private. Let's anonymize them. So anybody, what protocol should we do first? What do you want to see? Tornado, Railgun? Let's do it. Okay, so then let's. Okay, so we just did the shield command, or maybe I spelled something wrong. Yeah, I spelled broadcast wrong, just like last time. Okay, we pick which wallet we want to use. Let's use the Protocol Day wallet. Enter the password to decrypt our seed randomness. Now we have to say how much ETH do we want to shield. If I wanted to shield a different token, I could just pass that as a command in here. We might do that right after this. How much ETH do I want to shield? I don't know. Let's shield 0.3 ETH. Why not? And from which source account? Well, I only have one, so this one. Do we want to send this transaction? Yes, we do. And so now we're propagating this transaction. This is all on the Sepolia testnet right now. So we are just taking some ETH and putting it inside of the privacy protocol. Great. And in general, I would imagine, while we're waiting for this to happen, that this is something that wallets could be constantly prompting you to do. Any funds you have sitting in just like a public address, it could be like, hey, you want to sweep these back into the shielded pool? If that didn't already synchronously happen at the end of the user up bundle. So, okay, we did a shield. Nice. Let's do another one, but this time maybe you want to see that we can also shield an ERC20 into Railgun, so let's do a little bit of USDC. So, okay, we just say token, and I think this is the USDC address. Okay, so we have 125 USDC and some ETH in the first account there. So let's just shield 25 USDC. Okay. First, we have to approve, and then we will shield these tokens. Then after this, we'll just check out that. Check out our balances, and we'll see, oh, look, well, you'll see in a second, but, we'll have some funds in Railgun, and we'll have some funds outside of it in an address. Okay, here we go. Allow the chain to process this transaction. Awesome. So now, let's see what we've done so far. Check out our balances. And so we have this, this wallet software is working with all three of the protocols right now on Spolia testnet. It works with privacy pools, with Railgun, and with Tornado Cash. And the goal, okay, great. We can see we've got 3.8 ETH, 100 USDC. They're sitting in this public account here, but we've also got this pending WETH and USDC sitting inside Railgun. Aha, I forgot. Yes, Railgun. Each of these privacy protocols are slightly different. Railgun is one that has a proof of innocence system, so there's a little bit of a delay on your deposits. Deposits from bad actors can be flagged. Tornado Cash has no such thing, so why don't we also do we should, on the testnet in a minute or two, those will become spendable for us. But in the meantime, let's shield some funds in Tornado Cash as well. Why not? Okay, so we just open up our wallet here. How much do we want to shield in Tornado? Well, let's do something interesting. Let's do like 1.2 ETH in Tornado. And the reason is to show you that one nice thing the CLI does is in Tornado you have to deposit fixed amounts into the pools, but we can like batch that for you in a nice simple way. So we'll send the first transaction that'll shield 1 ETH in the 1 ETH Tornado pool, and then we'll have to do 2 more transactions, 2.1 ETH shields inside of Tornado. Only problem with that is maybe it's going to take a second to get all 3 transactions processed. We are close to done, but we want to be able to do a full round trip, right, to shield some coins, see them anonymized, and then see that you can also unshield them in a way that's kind of user-friendly. So, of course, this is a command line interface, not the most user-friendly thing. We'd love to see these adopted inside of browser extension wallets and all kinds of different wallet software that's out there, but already this exists. Okay, so we have a bunch of shield transactions there. We've deposited into Tornado. We can quickly check that that it's there and we can see it. And then let's unshield some funds into a fresh address, and that'll be the end of my demo here. Okay, great. So now again, you can just kind of check out your wallet, look at things integrated. We've still got this pending funds in Railgun waiting to be spendable, but we already have 1.2 ETH sitting inside of Tornado Cash that's spendable. One thing that might be interesting to think about as well in terms of user experience is, of course, the amount of anonymity that you get inside of these pools has to do with how long you've stayed in there. So but when I remove some funds from Tornado now and unshield them to a fresh address, that maybe timing correlations would make it pretty easy to de-anonymize me. So these are things wallets could show you with some sort of privacy score. Okay, you're about to spend with these funds in Tornado, but you know they've only been in there for a few days, so your score is somewhat weak. Here's a warning. But if they've been in there for months, you have a green check. Yeah, these are definitely private funds you're about to utilize. Last thing I just want to show you, let's unshield some funds from Tornado Cash and check out one of these cool 4337 user ops. All right, last command. Thank you all for watching. Okay. So now here we are, we're trying to unshield some funds from Tornado in our wallet, and already it just sort of, and this is sort of the natural user experience we're talking about, it just asks you, hey, do you want to unshield this to the next fresh address related to this seed phrase? So you say, yeah, definitely, that's where I want it. Cool, we have to say how much we'd like to unshield. Let's unshield 1 ETH in this case. Now we're going to locally generate the zero-knowledge proofs. This will take a second, and we're going to submit this operation to the 4337 mempool. So the one thing I wanted to talk to you about that's really important to us at the Kohaku initiative is that usually with these privacy protocols, when you were to relay your withdrawals, you would do that through infrastructure that was maintained by the privacy protocol or by a particular actor, maybe a proprietary one. We wanted to find a permissionless relaying path for all protocols. So something that's really nice is that you can, with some of the stuff we've been building, you can withdraw from all of these privacy protocols using the generalistic 4337 mempool with these user ops that I was talking about in the prior slide. This is great. It makes it much more resilient. You no longer, even if the teams who created like projects like privacy pools and Railgun stopped working and stopped maintaining their relaying infrastructure, you could still privately relay your withdrawals from these things. So let's actually just take a look at this withdrawal transaction. And why don't we also look at our balances? That'll be fun too. So you can see this is an account abstraction transaction that it hit the 4337 entry point, and so it was actually a 4337 bundle that was done. And here you have an example of and here we can check out our accounts, and we have this new account here that was generated, which is the one that received the 1 ETH minus the fees we paid to the bundler. And so if we check out that address, you can see that this has no transactions associated with it. If you look at the internal transactions, the only one you'll have is this, this thing that was relayed by the bundler. And this ETH is very nicely anonymized, and yet easy for you to operate on because it's just a part of your wallet. You can see that now our public balances in aggregate have just went up. And so if you wanted to, eventually the idea is the extra calls, the extra things you might have wanted to do with that ETH, you could also put through this CLI. So atomically, you would have withdrawn that ETH and then done a bunch of things from this account. Even if you didn't withdraw ETH, you're paying for gas with funds inside of the privacy protocol, so you could have withdrawn USDC, done some things with that USDC, and ended up with the outputs of your actions in this fresh account while you paid for that with, you paid back the gas fees to the bundler with tokens they accept that came directly out of the privacy protocol. So this is what we're working on. This is what we want to see wallets turn into on Ethereum. Thanks so much for your time. Sorry it took so long.
We can take one question if anybody has one, yeah?
No questions.
No.
Oh.
That was your question. No, you can have one question.
Is this going to be, so you're going to do like a graphical wallet, and is it going to be maintained?
So the main thing we are building is this are these SDKs that make it really easy to build something like this. So the idea is that a bunch of graphical wallets will adopt this. Even the CLI you just saw, I have this like simple TUI, so like text-based CLI, so you could use the arrows here. These are things we're building to show what's possible with our SDK. The goal is that, that in general, wallets across the space, different kinds of wallets, browser extensions, et cetera, would adopt some of these standards, and you'd see this inside of wallets. One project that we know is coming is the Ambire wallet, which is they have, I believe, a native app and for sure a browser extension. It's a great Ethereum wallet. They are already integrating these SDKs to be able to have some of these flows, transaction flows and experiences like this directly in their wallet. So yeah, that's the answer.